Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Test 1, 2. 1, 2. Test 1, 2. 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Entrepreneur Growth Strategy Masterclass. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Growth Strategy Masterclass. Attorney Sekou Clark will be with you in a few minutes. Testing 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello. Good. How are you? welcome.
Today, my goal is to help you to silence that voice. All right, so I'm Sekou Clark. Welcome to the Apex Mindset. So I created, thank you. The Apex Mindset came to me when I remember when I was building my dream house. And this dream was inside of my heart for years growing up. And the dream house that I envisioned, it was on the lake. It had everything that I ever imagined. And that moment finally came. And we took the time to pick out everything. And I mean, as a kid growing up in Jamaica, this is your dream, right? And then you come to America, and then now it's the American dream to have the house on the water. And I was super excited. And it took 6 months for the house to build. And the day I moved into the house, I fell into a state of depression. I was depressed for 2 weeks straight. Like I couldn't understand why was I depressed, and this was a milestone, right? You move into your dream home, everything that you've wanted, and I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. And after speaking to some friends and after doing some self-searching, I realized that the happiness wasn't attached to the home. It was more the hunt, right? It was more the person that I had to become in order to achieve that goal. And that is when I accepted that I am a hunter. And you have a lot of people like that where you find yourself keep on going and going and going. You hit this milestone and you hit this other milestone and you just never seem to stop. It's because you are innately a hunter. Humans are innately hunters. Like that is how we started out, right? That is how we started out. We hunted to eat, men and women, right? We hunted to provide. We hunted to also protect. And that is the baseline of who we are as people. We're hunters. So once I understood that concept and I accepted it, it was no longer a matter of associating happiness or self-worth or self-value with achieving a thing. Right? Happiness, you'll never find your happiness in a destination. You'll never find your happiness in a thing. You'll never find your happiness, your true happiness, in a relationship. You'll never find your happiness in moving to a place, right? It's not a destination, it is a process. And we all carry that every single place that we go. So that is how I came up with the hunter mindset, because if you can see yourself at the apex, if you are the head hunter of your jungle, of your world, you will be assuming certain responsibilities. You will be assuming a certain mindset, and you will be assuming a duty, right? If you are a woman and you're assuming that you are a hunter, you know you're going to provide for your family. You know you're going to protect your family. You know you're going to protect your partner if you choose that. And if you're a man, it's the same thing. It's no different, right? You know that you have to not only provide for your family, but you're going to protect them. You're going to protect the hyenas from coming into your home. You're going to protect any type of animal or person or situation from coming into your home, because you are at the top. And that's the mindset that I want to impart on you today. So, just a little bit about me, right? Who am I? Why should you even be listening to me, right? So, I came to the U.S. when I was 18 on a scholarship to the University of Florida from Kingston, Jamaica. I always had a dream. I had this dream as a child that I wanted to be an Olympic gold medalist. Like that was my biggest dream. That was my identity. And everything worked up to that point. Leaving college and tried to run professionally. And don't get me wrong, it was the most amazing experience. But I started to see that dream fading, even though I was chasing it and chasing it and chasing it. But it eluded me. And that put me into a crisis of an identity, right? And a lot of us, we create this identity as to this is who our parents want us to be. This is who our family wants us to be. Or even just your environment, like you feel like this is where you should be. This is the definition of who you are. But what happens when that identity isn't meeting reality? A lot of people become suffocated. They become paralyzed. Or they start living somebody else's dream. They either start to live their husband or their wife's dream, or they turn that dream into either just being a parent, and that's it. But what do you do when you have an identity crisis? And that is what I grappled with for years, because I always saw myself as an athlete. And that's when I made the shift. I said, all right, I'll go and get my MBA. I got my MBA. Then I went to law school. Then I started this practice. And I began to scale this practice. And that's when I reshaped my identity. And that's when, along the way of this entire journey, I learned that you can start from zero. You can start over at any time. You don't have to have the right circle. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to have the right people in your corner. You don't have to have support. You don't have to have people believe in you. But the one thing that you definitely 100% have to have is the right mindset. One thing I've seen in people is you tell yourself a story, right? You can tell yourself this story that I'm not good enough. Or you can tell yourself this story that, all right, you know, I'm here, I have an accent, or I'm here, I didn't have this support growing up, or I look this type of way, and you tell yourself this story. And a lot of times you will have accomplishments, you will have opportunities, but because you're repeating that story to yourself, that's what you believe. And that limiting belief is what prevents a lot of people from being the best version of themselves, right? It prevents them from being the best hunter that they can be, because you keep on seeing yourself as a gatherer. You keep on seeing yourself as someone that is being hunted. Or you keep on seeing yourself as trauma. We all go through trauma, right? It's what makes us human beings. But what you cannot, and what I will not allow you to do, and a mentor said this to me, is let your trauma speak for you. A lot of times we wear our trauma and we're not even aware of it. We have this trauma that we're carrying from childhood, from past relationships, from past jobs, and we let that trauma speak for us. We let that trauma speak to our spouses, our best friends. We let it speak to our children, and you're not even aware of it because you have told yourself that story for so long that the trauma has become who you are. It's now a part of your identity. But we're going to get into today how we're going to change that mindset. Because I've been there before. I've been in the situation where I feel like I wasn't enough. I feel like I didn't have the right team. Even when there was a level of success already achieved, right? So just because you've achieved success at a certain level, it doesn't mean that you're going to be immune. Just because you've hunted and done well in one season, the next season, there's going to be a different size animal trying to take your food, right? You're going to have different obstacles that will come, and you have to change the mindset and keep on elevating. But everything starts from here, here, and within your body. And that is the apex mindset, right? When you have the right mindset and dial into the proper mindset, there's nothing that will stop you from achieving anything, no matter how cliche it sounds, right? If you have the right mindset and you tell yourself the right things on a daily basis, you're going to believe it or you're not going to believe it. So it all starts from the mindset. And then after the mindset, having the right mindset, because yeah, you can have the right mindset and you can tell yourself these things every single day, but if you don't take the proper actions, if you don't have the right systems, then you're going to stay exactly in the same place that you are. You're going to have resent, right? And you're going to start going into the pattern of negative, self-limiting beliefs. So we start from the mindset, we start from the body, and then that's when we put in the business. And that's when we put in the systems. And that's when we start to take different steps and grow from where we are. So you have in front of you some workbooks. That is my gift to you. And you can take notes and you can follow along. And for all the people joining, I appreciate you. I hope you got the link for you to access the workbook. Where's Sophie? Oh, all right. So before we get into it, before we even talk strategy or even talk systems, I need you to do something for me that most people don't do. Like most people skip over this part, which is the most important part of developing that mindset of getting closer to who you should be. And it is deciding who you want to become. And I want you to let that sink in. It is actually deciding who you want to become. Not what you want to have, not what you want to achieve, but who you want to become. You don't need more information. You don't need more tools. You don't need more master classes. You don't need more YouTube or self-help books. You have everything that's inside you, but you have to make that decision as to who you want to become. And a lot of times, we don't have the clarity as to who we want to become. And again, this is from limiting self-beliefs. This is from past trauma. And this is from the wrong circle telling you that you can't become this type of person. So who do you want to become? And I'm a huge believer in understanding your future self, in really taking the time out to develop what that future self looks like. So I want everyone for 10 seconds. I want you to close your eyes for me. Yes, close your eyes. And even if you're at home, close your eyes. All right. And I want you to see yourself 10 years from now. What does he or she look like when they walk into a room? How does she carry herself? How does he carry herself? What have you built 10 years from now? What does your mornings look like? Who is around you? What do you no longer tolerate? What type of boundaries do you have for yourself? But I want you to take a deep breath and I want you to feel confident, like fill your lungs for me. And I want you to feel peace, but you're still picturing her. You're still picturing him, right? I want you to feel what it means to have built something for your children, for the legacy that you're trying to build, for the freedom that you're trying to create, right? For the people who sacrifice for you to get to where you are today. That person is not a fantasy. That person is not a decision. And every system that I give you today is going to be a bridge between that person. All right, so open your eyes. And for me, and as a hunter, each time you think about that future self, if you're actually hunting, if you're actually chasing, if you're actually preparing a weapon to go out there to go after your prey, that future self is going to look different every single time. Right? When I used to envision my future self 10 years ago, it's a different person that I am today. So you have to reinvent that future self. So you're always chasing that person. But the beauty about it is that you're not comparing yourself to anybody else. You're not comparing yourself to people's highlight reels. You're not comparing yourself to people who give a false narrative of what a relationship is supposed to look like. You're not comparing yourself to people who they're trying to tell you what success for them looks like. Because success for everybody looks completely different. And the hunt and the chase should look completely different. But the mindset of keep on chasing and not waiting or not falling into the trap of being hunted, that is what you have control of. So if you can, I want you to just take a couple seconds and I want you to write down and describe yourself in a couple sentences. You can write it anywhere. How does your future self look? It can be bullet points. What are they doing? Where are they? How are they feeling? Are they at peace? Are they happy? Are they in love with themselves? And I want you to write down what that future self looks like. For me, I even narrow it down to the chair that I'm sitting in, the outfit that I have on, what's on my feet, what's going on around me. You have to make that future self of yours crystal clear. You have to have clarity as to what you want that version of yourself to look like. Now, Michael Jordan once said, some people want it to happen, some wish it would happen, and other people make it happen. And that is the hunter in you that I want you to find by the end of tonight. All right, so before any hunter goes on any hunt, there are 4 questions that you got to ask yourself. There's 4 questions that I want you to ask yourself right now. And we already asked ourselves the first one, which is the most important question, which is, who do you want to become? And only you can define that. Without the clarity of who you want to become, there's no way you're going to be able to ask yourself other questions or even move the needle. The second question, which it's so easy to overlook this question, and this is why people fail in business, they fail in relationships, and they fail at being the person that they truly aspire to be. They fail at using the tools that is God-given. Everybody has tools. Everybody has tools to hunt. But a lot of time we sit on the tools or we let them get rusty and we don't sharpen these tools. So the second question that I want you to ask yourself is, what are you willing to sacrifice? Everything has a cost. Every single thing that is worth pursuing has a cost. If you are chasing an elephant, best believe it has a cost. Versus if you are chasing a guinea pig, there's a different type of cost, right? But everything, and it's in two separate questions. Everything, you have to sacrifice something. You have to give up something. You have to give up a version of yourself in order to get to that next step. There's something that you have to kill in order to get to that person that you're trying to become. Right? Are you going to have to sacrifice the people that you are around? Are you going to have to sacrifice a partner? Are you going to have to sacrifice habits that just do not serve you? But everything, there is a sacrifice. So that's question number 2. Question number 3 is, what is the cost? And it's not just money, it's time, it's relationships, it's your comfort, it's your identity. So when I transitioned from being an athlete to becoming an attorney, there are a lot of things that I had to sacrifice. I had to sacrifice time. I had to go back to law school. I was already making money as a personal trainer, but I had to take a step back, and it cost me time. It did cost me money. It will cost you relationships. And have you ever seen like successful NBA players or successful rappers or successful people in general, and they hit this level of success, but they stay around the same people or they stay in the same environment with no accountability, then something happens and they go right back to where they started. It goes to the tale of the people who win the lottery, right? They always either go back to a worse position or back to the same position, and it's because they do not understand what they have to sacrifice to maintain that. So that's question number 3. And the last one is using what you have. It's not really a question. It's using what you have right now. It's using what you have, not when you feel ready, or not when you have the money, or not when you think the timing is perfect. The time is never going to be right, period. The time is never, ever, ever, ever going to be right. And it's just like hunting, right? When I was building that house that I told you about, after signing the contract in December 2019 and made a deposit, COVID hit. And they changed every single thing in terms of requirements for that house, right? So there was a bigger deposit that was required. There was more financials that had to be produced. It was significantly different in 2020 to get approved for that loan, right? And to come up with additional funding. So it wasn't what we expected. And a lot of people, they get so paralyzed by things changing. But if you have the right mindset and you know exactly what your weapons are, you're going to keep pushing. And just please remember those 4 questions. And especially the last one, it's not really a question, but it is using what you have. You have to use what you have. A lot of people, we say, man, I don't speak this language, or I never had support growing up, or I have too much people that are relying on me, so you use that as a shield, as I cannot go forward. But you have to, everybody has the right weapons to hunt, but you just have to use it. You can have a person with 3, 4 swords and you have one, And if you have the right mindset, the right training, and you sharpen it properly, you will be able to achieve that kill than that person with 4. All right. So as we move on, there are 3 areas that you, before you go on this hunt in your life, right? Before you go on this journey, you have to think about your state, your emotion, and your future. So the state is, are you operating as the hunter right now? A hunter that is stressed out, a hunter that is hunting purely out of hunger, or a hunter that is hunting purely out of being reactive, being depressed, being upset, being angry at the world, is the hunter that is going to miss that kill every single time. So you have to get your state of mind. And I'm huge on state of mind. Every morning when I wake up, I have to intentionally and deliberately check my state of mind, right? That state of mind is not waking up and boom, you're thinking about emails, you're thinking about working out, you're thinking about the kids, you're thinking about XYZ. It is the state that you are in control of this moment, you're in control of this day, and you know exactly what you're going to do throughout this day. I mean, of course, the day will throw curveballs, right? The day is going to change, but you have to have the right state. If you go into a day as a victim, if you go into the day as a wounded hunter, who is the wounded hunter? The person who you've taken some major L's, right? You've either lost a lot of money, you've lost a relationship, you've lost friends, you feel like you are losing your faith. If you wake up wounded and you act wounded, you're not in a proper state of mind, so you're going to continue down that same path. So always be aware of the state of mind. That's one. Number 2 is your emotion, right? What is your emotion that is going with your mind, right? Your mind and your emotions are 2 different entities, right? And a lot of times we're unaware that an emotion that we might be feeling isn't real, right? You have some emotions that are not real, such as guilt. It's not a real emotion. It's created as a reaction or a byproduct or something, right? Fear is a real emotion, but you can control it. Rage, it is an emotion that you can control. So these are different emotional states that you react to based off experiences in life, based on experience from the day before, based on experiences of the people around you, and you wake up with that emotion without keeping it in check. But you have to tell yourself that this emotion isn't real. You can accept it and be like, okay, this hurt, I felt it, let's move on. But a wounded hunter will never outperform a hunter that understands that whatever wound that you have, it's not going to stop the chase and the hunt that you're going on today. And the most important part, and this is where so many people miss, it is the target. So you have your state of mind, you have the emotions that you're waking up with. Are you angry? Are you hurt? Are you upset? But can you keep it at a baseline? But it is the target. And that's where a lot of people miss in starting their business, in growing their business, right? In achieving certain goals or just continuing their hunt, is they don't know what is the target. And the target is, that should be your North Star, right? Your target should be the same, or your target should be aligning with your future self. And you can have daily targets, right? If you don't have a target, if you don't have a North Star, you will fall victim to either somebody chasing you, you will fall victim to the stresses of life. You have to have a target. It has to be clear. You have to define what that target is. All right. So again, when it comes down to the target and your future, you have to understand that in achieving any target, there's going to be a risk, there's going to be a cost, there's going to be a possibility of failure. And that is why I said the target and the future is the most important part. We have so many people that they're crippled by fear. They're crippled by fear. And sometimes the fear is from your environment. Sometimes the fear is created by you. The fear can come from a traumatic event. You could have had $1 million business and it failed. You lost a lot of money. It disappointed you. You let down people who were relying on you. And because that happened, you create this fear and you'll be like, I'm just going to stay low key. But the best hunters, the best fighters, the best athletes, the best businessmen, they have failed way more than they have won. But it's the reps. You cannot let this failure traumatize you. But you have to understand that the bigger the hunt, the bigger the chase, it's going to come with risk. And risk is okay. But the problem that a lot of us have is we're not willing to take the risk. And because we're not willing to take the risk, we end up staying in the same position. We don't make the necessary calls. We don't put ourselves in situations to get an opportunity, right? We don't put ourselves in a situation to gain more knowledge. So I remember when I just passed the bar, and I knew I wanted to start my own firm, but the firm that I was at, I knew that that's not where I wanted to be, period, right? And at the time, I didn't really have a lot of connections in Orlando. So I put on my calendar once a week, I'm going to go to some type of event or put myself in some type of situation to where I can meet people and get that opportunity. But I made that decision as to what I wanted to do. And on month 4 or 5, I'll never forget, I went to this Christmas party. I went by myself. I just had it on the calendar. I'm going to show up here. I'm going to network. And I'm going to do my thing. And I saw this guy, tall, skinny white guy, but he was wearing some Carolina blue Jordans. And I'll never forget that. I was like, okay, this guy seems interesting. So I was looking at him. And at the same time, he looked at me. And, he came over, introduced himself. And we got to speaking. Told him what I did, who I was. Long story short, fast forward from that conversation, the guy said, hey, I want to bring you in for an interview. I have a big firm and we want to open up an immigration department. Mind you, in my mind, immigration, I'd only done a couple paperwork for some friends and families. I was like, yeah, sure. So I went to the interview and he said, all right, yeah, let's start in 2 weeks. But I didn't realize this. I mean, I looked up the firm, but when I went to the firm, had over 20 attorneys. I was the youngest person there. I was the most inexperienced because by that time, I'd only been practicing for a year. And in the first day, he brought some files on me with people who are in deportation proceedings with felonies. And they say, hey, figure it out. But the story is to tell you that you have to put yourself in these situations. You have to decide what you're going to do. You cannot sit and wait for an opportunity to come to you, right? I'm sure you've heard closed mouths don't. Exactly. And the rest is history. Again, the right amount of experience there, which propelled me to opening my own firm. So you have to make the decisions. A lot of us, we let fear We let trauma speak for us. We let limiting beliefs, limiting stories that we tell ourselves prevent us from even just taking the first step. If you're not willing to take the first step, if you're not willing to pick up your weapon, it does not make sense. But everybody can do it because everybody has a weapon that you are given. Every single person has a weapon. It might not be the same as the person next to you. It might not be the same as the person who gets all the employees of the month. It might not be the same as the person who is acing all of the classes, but everybody has a weapon. It's just for you to know how you're going to sharpen that weapon and how to use it, but also deciding. All right, so we're going to escalate the conversation a little bit more, right? We're going to go into the blueprint that I say it's a blueprint to go to $1 million, but I feel like this blueprint can be used to make your first 50,000, your first 100,000, and get to your first $1 million. All right, so 80% of businesses fail, right? Not because of a bad idea, not because of lack of hustle, not because of not having the right people, but they fail because of these 3 bottlenecks that we're going to go over. But I'm also going to give you 3 pillars to stand on when you're thinking about scaling your own business. And again, whether it's from 0 to 50, 50 to 100, whether you are moonlighting, doing something on the side, because at the end of the day, this is an entrepreneur masterclass, right? So the first part is to get the mind right, because you can jump into being an entrepreneur, people. Right? You can jump into being an entrepreneur, but if you don't have the right mindset, you're either going to end up hiring the wrong people, or you're going to end up quitting when the pressure gets too much. All right? So the first thing is cash flow management. And it amazes me anytime I meet with a business owner and I ask them this question and they cannot tell me. And it's not going to be in the workbook. Sorry. Yeah. So it's cash flow management, right? And cash flow management, it starts from knowing your numbers. Who right here can tell me, I mean, even if you're an employee, right? And my favorite type of employee are the ones that see themselves as a business, because 25 businesses will add significantly more to the overall movement of the organization versus people who are thinking as employees. And I think I'm like so truly blessed to have a team that most of them are entrepreneurs, or even an entrepreneur mind. And I like to be transparent with them in terms of numbers and processes and operations, because you make decisions from a different place once you understand, oh, you know what, if I make this decision, it's going to cost X, Y, Z, or this is why this decision is being made, because the numbers matter. If you do not know your numbers, you're dead. And that is the first thing that you have to know, right? You have to know what your numbers are. You have to know what your cash flow is. So if you're a business owner, or if you are in the business of your own self, anybody here can tell me, well, raise your hand if you know your cash position and the margin that you're operating at and the burn rate that you're operating at, right? Meaning how much money is in your account, right? You know how much you're spending each month. you know what your margin is, and you know what it takes to survive, what it takes to feed you, keep your lights on, keep your family fed, and keep it going. Does anybody off the top of their head know that? Raise their hand. Okay. That's the first thing, right? You have to know these, you have to, whether you're a business owner or not, it shouldn't surprise you. It shouldn't be you swipe, no, it shouldn't be money enters your account and you are about to book this trip to Colombia and then you see AT&T yank something out and you're like, ha ha, and you're like, what? I wasn't expecting that. No. It should, I mean, at this stage in our lives, you should not be getting surprised unless it's Uncle Sam, because Uncle Sam can surprise you, right? But AT&T should not be surprising you. Your rent, your mortgage should not be surprising you. The school fees should not be surprising you. These are things that you have to know. And this is the type of mindset that you have, that you must have in order to move from 0 to 50, 100 to 250. You have to know your numbers of a business. If you're selling a product or a service, you have to know, all right, in order for me to hit this target of $10,000 for the month, I need to know how much products am I going to sell that month, right? You need to know how much that product costs, and you need to know the time it's going to fulfill, or the time that is, or the time that it's going to take to deliver that service. You have to know these numbers. And if you can know this number before you start a business, then you're ahead of the game. People start businesses off of either ego, legacy, lifestyle, right, or pocket. And you have to know these numbers. And again, even if you're an employee, if you know your numbers, you will be able to make decisions as to how you can be of value, how you're going to add more value, because if you add more value, then it should correlate to what your salary is, to what your compensation is. You have to know what you're bringing to the table. You have to know these numbers. And a good way to do this, like if this person isn't you, if it doesn't come natural, like for me, it does not come natural. Like I had this mindset a long time ago where, all right, I know that these are my expenses and I just have to just keep on making more money. And that might work for a while. I'm like, all right, I know how to make this money. Just keep on making more and it will take care of the expenses. But at some point it's going to catch up and you have to be significantly more granular. You have to know these numbers. And it will not grow if you don't water it. It will not grow if you don't give it attention. You should be looking at your account every day. It should not be a Halloween situation when you look at your account. You should know. I mean, if it's negative, you wake up and you check and be like, yeah, I knew that. Right? So you need to know, you need to be checking your account every day. Because if you're checking your account every day and it doesn't feel good with what you see, it should let you say, all right, I need to put this weapon to use. Whether you're an employee or a business owner. If you're a business owner, you should be able to look at your account and be like, all right, this is not getting the job done. What do I need to do? Do I need, if you're a business owner, do I need to market more? Do I need to bring in more talent, right? Do I need to have better systems? Do I need to train the people that I have? It makes you want to do something. If you're an employee and you're not happy with what you're seeing every single month and you're looking at your account every day and you know it's not getting the job done, some people would say, well, you need to scale back your expenses. And you're like, how am I going to scale back my expenses? I got to travel, I have to do all this. No. So it should influence a decision that, all right, there's something that I can do on the side. There's something that I can start. There is investments that I can make. So you got to check your account every single day. All right, so that's the first thing, right? And it leads into it underscores the target. The second thing, in terms of going from 0 to 50, 50 to 100K, and I mean, these are broader concepts, right? But I've realized that this concept hits everybody who is in the range of 100 to 250,000, and you're trying to scale past that. This concept also hits the person that you know you're talented, you know you have the degrees, you know you have the training, but you're also a parent, you're also serving on 5 boards, you're also helping your friend start their business, you're also helping your girlfriends through their relationships. This is the founder trap, or it's called the key man risk, right? The founder trap, meaning you become the ceiling. You are the one that you're trying to do everything in the business. And that will keep you painfully at 250K or less. Because every decision runs through you, every problem lands on your desk, and you're going to say, no, I have high standards, right? Or you're going to say, I'm a good person. I can say yes, I can say yes, I can say yes. Right? But it's really fair. If you truly want to break through and pass that threshold, and again, whether you're a business owner or whether you're an employee, it starts with understanding that you're in a trap, right? You are the key man. You are doing every single thing, and you truly believe that you have to make every single decision in the firm. Or, well, not in the firm, but in the business or at your house. You don't want to delegate. Or you only want to delegate the things that, don't affect you. You'll tell your husband to go take out the trash, but you won't let him help you cook. You won't let him help you with the kids. But then you complain that you're stressed, right? Or you're in your business and you're taking calls, you're doing the books, you are marketing, right? And you're also sending out packages, or you're doing deliveries, and you're doing it all. When you have the money, right? You have the money, you have the bandwidth in order to hire a person. You will always cap at your multiple. Your business and your life will always cap at the knowledge that you have. And that's the next level, to go from 250 to 500, and even 500 to $1 million, is understanding that you are the cap of your multiple. And then you'll have people who bring in people around them who are not as smart as them, not as qualified, and still delegate, and they fear bringing in someone else because they look at the money in their account and be like, all right, I have 10,000. If I pay this person 3,000, then that's less money coming in for me. And that's the wrong mindset. Or you are trying to be the better version of yourself, and you're at home and you attribute certain chores to your kids or somebody that loves you, instead of thinking, all right, well, maybe if I spend X amount to have somebody come and clean the house, maybe once a week, it's going to free up an hour or two. And that hour or two is what you can use to either rejuvenate, do some classes, network, get certifications to launch that thing that you have on the side. But we don't see it that way, and then instead we sit in it and we blame and we tell ourselves that these things are not happening. So that's number 2. And it's a founder trap, right? So what I want for you to do is I want you to think about who does what, when, and how, whether it's in your business or in your house. It doesn't matter if you have one employee or if you have 10. That's something that I want you to think about, and then after tonight, you really work on that. Who does what, when, and how? And if it's just you, and you're trying to start a business or you're trying to get out there, right? You shouldn't be thinking where you are right now. You should be thinking, all right, my business is looking, I want my business to look like this in 3 to 4 years. You need to have clearly defined who is going to do what, who is going to do when, and who is going to do how, right? What, when, and how. And you should be cap your doing time at 60% of your week. All right? And the other 40% should be leading. Should be at 60-40.
So 60% from that individual person, whoever
Yeah.
is the entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and then 40 to delegate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so as I said, in terms of this system, and again, it's broad strokes. It's knowing your numbers. It is identifying what the founder trap is, right? Or the key man risk. Are you the key person? Is your business gonna die if you are removed? Is your family gonna go hungry if you leave? If your partner exits, are you stuck? Right? It's the same thing. So you have to figure that out. The third thing so we did the cash flow management, we did the founder trap, and the third one, which is one of my favorite ones, and this is a bottleneck, it's no repeatable sales system. No repeatable sales system. So with whatever business that you're doing, whatever service that you provide, if you do not know how to sell, if you do not know how to communicate value, you're going to fail. So again, I always use employee versus business owner, right? Thank you. We go from great month, terrible month. Great month, terrible month. And we don't know how this money came in. We don't know how this opportunity came by. And it's because we don't have a repeatable sales system. And every product, every business is completely different in terms of what your sales system is going to look like. And again, all right, so let's start with a person who is not a business owner, right? If you're not a business owner and you're an employee, you have to have a metric as to how you are building value, right? I know I shouldn't be saying this because of the makeup of the audience right now, but the average employee should be changing their roles every 5 years. Changing their roles and a change in their pay. But you cannot justify it if you cannot walk in a door and say, hey, I've done X, Y, Z. I have exceeded X, Y, Z. And you know how to calculate the value that you have added. If you can't do that, then you're either going to stay there 10 years and be in the same position, or you're going to say, all right, you know what? I'm going to move somewhere else. But then you're going to be back in the same position. So most employees change every 5 years to either get more pay or to grow more. But how can you show that you should be getting more pay if you cannot quantify the value that you're bringing? Right? If if you have benchmarks that you're supposed to hit in your role at your job, and you go to your employer and say, yeah, you wanted me to do X, Y, Z. And he's gonna look at you and be like, yeah, that's what I'm paying you to do. Or she's gonna say, okay, and this is what you signed up for. But if you can go there and say, this is what you required me to do, and this is where I exceeded these expectations. This is how I have moved the company from A to B. And you can quantify it. You can say, well, I know for this month, this number was achieved, right? And the work that I did directly impacted that. And it can be like, yeah, okay. But if you can't even calculate that, how are you going to move forward? How are you going to hunt the things that you want? And it's the same thing in a business. If you don't know where your leads are coming from, if you don't know, or if you don't have a follow-up system, if you do not have data that you can follow to say, okay, I made X amount of money because I did A plus B. I know I spent this much on marketing. I know I invested on these ads. And I know that it brought in 10 leads. And you're like, oh man, that's awesome. It got 10 leads. But you know what gave you 10 leads, so you know how to do it over again. But then it gets you to the point to where you can say, all right, you know what? If that gave me 10 leads, then if I double this effort, if I double this one thing, then maybe it can give me 20 leads. And let's repeat that cycle. Or how can I make that cycle better? And that's what people fail to understand, is repeating that sales system. But in order to repeat it, you have to know the numbers. And you have to know who is doing what and when. It should not be a magic show. It should not be surprises. Right? It should be something that is predictable. Right? I mean, in any of my businesses, I can look back a month or two and I can see what was made that month, and I can know exactly what went wrong. You'll know if it was marketing, you'll know if it was operations, right? You will know, but if you don't know, that's what will keep you stuck in between 100 to 250K. And if you do get to 500 or even 600, it hurts. It really, really hurts. So again, people, cash flow management, the founder trap, and not having a repeatable sales system. All right, so we went over a system a while ago that is, I guarantee if you have those three things in mind, you can push through past 250 or 500K. But what if you're starting from zero, right? What if you make 45 or 50K? And you know you have talent, you know you have these ideas, you know there's something that you can do that is more. All right, so how do we launch? How do we start a business? How do we get that idea off the ground? How do we excel at our jobs, but knowing how to run up this side business, right? How do we create something from nothing? It can be done. It's 2026. I'm telling you, it can be done. All right, the first step, But before we get into that, how are we feeling? You're feeling good? I'm not boring just yet. And not yet? Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you some steps. Step 1, you find a problem. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? As a business owner, as a service provider, or if you're just sitting down looking at your account and it's negative, and you're trying to come out of that trap, you're trying to come off of that treadmill. Or if you're sitting down and you're like, and you know, maybe I'll regret saying this, but if you're sitting down in your job and be like, damn man, I can start my own business. Right? What is the next step? And it is solving a problem. You have to figure out, do you have a product? Do you have a service that can solve a problem? Right? And for me, my cheat code in deciding to go to law school is I know there's a lot of problems that can be solved, right? But outside of that, in terms of a business, what problem can you solve? And once you figure out that there's a problem that can be solved, then that's when the research begins, right? For me, what I did when I figured out, okay, this is the first problem that I want to solve as an attorney or as a business owner. This is the problem I'm going to solve as an agent or as a business consultant. This is the problem that I have identified. I'm going to research who is the best in the market and who is the worst in the market. So for me, when I was starting my firm, I said, all right, I'm going to look at this firm that I want to be like, and it's going to be the best firm in the market, in the industry, and I'm going to pick all the things that they're doing, and I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. But then I also looked at my first firm that I worked at that I did not want to be like at all, right? And you create something in between. But it starts with the research. It starts with, if you're that person that makes 50K, 45K, it's easy. You can get on YouTube. You can do free masterclasses like this. You can have AI and you do the research. Not for a day, but you do it for a couple weeks. Before I came on this stage today, I knew I wanted to do this. So I started looking at the people who do stuff like this almost a year ago. So now when I'm in the gym, I don't even listen to music. I listen to those guys who are doing exactly this. And I'm trying to understand, because I know what I want to communicate. But obviously, if these guys have been doing it for years and this is the only thing they do, I want to learn and understand that. And it goes to the same thing. Like, if you want to sell a certain product or provide a certain service, use your information, research information from your previous employer or from a previous experience, right? Or from anybody that you would want to be like, and you put it in your pocket, right? It's like you're still keeping your sword, but you know what? That knife looks pretty good that I can hunt with. You know what? Maybe I can try this net because I've never hunted a cheetah before. I'm just used to hunting the guinea pigs, but I need something else. So step 1 is you find the problem. Talk to 10 or 15 different people. That's easy. Step 2, and before I even get to that, right? A lot of people complicate steps when it comes down to starting their business, right? A lot of them, either they start going into their head about logic, they start having the whole self-doubt thing, and that is where the mindset has to be right when you're starting a business. You have to have the right mindset so you don't carry You don't carry an empty cup into this new venture that you're planning to take on. Then once you figure that problem that you can solve, whether it's you are doing extra deliveries on Amazon, you're drop shipping, or you are baking cakes, right? Or you are providing paralegal services, right? You are solving a problem. The next thing that you want to do is you have to have an offer. You have to know what your offer is. And I see a lot of people get stuck or they fall short at this point, right? They say, all right, boom, I'm going to sell merchandise. This is going to be my side hustle. I've researched it. I've looked at YouTube. I'm going to start this merchandise company and I'm going to sell it. All right, boom. So you got everything. You invested $1,000 and then you say, all right, you research and you say, okay, I can put it on this website and I'm good. But the step that they fail to do is, what is your offer? I'm not just selling a t-shirt, I'm selling you a lifestyle. I'm not just selling a t-shirt, I am selling you a movement. Right? I'm not selling you arepas. I'm selling you an experience. So framing your offer, right? You have to frame that offer. You've got to frame that offer. All right, step 2, and this is the most important step, people. And this step applies to everything from the mindset to your state to your emotions. And this step in this process is why you are where you are today. It is why you are making what you are making, whether you're happy with it or you're not. And it is your why. It is your why. A lot of times, because we don't have the right why, there's inconsistencies, right? If you decide that you're going to start this merchandise or this t-shirt business, and midway you go through it and you're like, man, I'm bored, and you move on to the next thing. And you have so many people like that. They're like serial entrepreneurs, right? Serial entrepreneurs, but not in a good way, is they start 7, 8, 9, 10 businesses and there's nothing to show for it. And it's because there isn't the right why. And the why is what is going to get you up every single day. The why is what is going to let you experience cost and sacrifice. You have to know why. Is it a legacy business, right? Is this what you want to be remembered for? Is it for the lifestyle? Is this business going to take care of my family, have me have the car that I want to drive, have me take 2 or 3 vacations a year, or is it just ego? Do you want to prove to your parents that you're better than them? Do you want to prove to your spouse that you're better than them? And only you can decide if that is the right why. You have to have the right why, right? And if you don't have the right why, your results are going to be inconsistent. And inconsistent actions give inconsistent results. And, we can even segue this into being a parent, being a friend, or developing a certain relationship. Why are you in this friendship with this person? Is it just because you thought the person was cool, right? And then that person starts to invest in you, but because you had the wrong motive, you had the wrong motivation for it, you had the wrong why, you fall short. And then now you have somebody that is upset and hurt. So we have to have the right why when we're getting into this business, all right? And again, if you're making $35,000 a year, you got to figure out why you're making $35,000 a year. And then you have to figure out, how am I going to get to $50,000 or $85,000 a year? But that why Is it that you've realized that, man, I'm looking at the people around me and I know I'm better than this? Or I'm looking at the people around me and they have elevated past me and I know I am better. I know I'm more talented. I know, and it's not because you're a good person, right? But it's because you don't understand your why and you have to take that next step. And once you've decided what your why is and you think about it for 3 days, if it doesn't excite you, then it's not the right why. So I remember when I first wanted, a good mentor of mine said, I think you should become an attorney. And, you know, in my mind, I was like, I already have this business going, right? I've already gotten my MBA. I don't think I need to do this. You know, I don't think I need this extra degree where I'm going to have to do 3 years of school. I'm going to have to take a step back. And it's the same for you in your life, right? You get to that point where you're like, why do I need to get this extra certification, right? Why do I need to put myself to make this sacrifice to pay this cost? And it's because you don't have the right why. And it didn't, once you made that decision, it didn't stick with you long enough. So for me, I would wake up thinking about, man, should I go to law school? And it stayed in my mind and it stayed in my soul for like 3 or 4 months. And then I'm like, all right, this painfully, this is it. This is it. I hated reading. I still do. But I know it's a cost, right? I know it's a cost and a sacrifice, but it stayed within me. So whatever you are deciding that is your next move in terms of the employee that you want to be, in terms of the business that you want to start, make sure that once you figure out your why and it stays with you, if it doesn't stay with you, chances are you're not going to be consistent at it. You're not going to be consistent with your actions. You need to ditch it, but if it stays with you, take the next step. Step 3, after you decide your why, is you got to evaluate your resources. And when I say resources doesn't always mean money. It means knowledge. It means people. Right? And it means time, and you have to be brutally honest with it, right? Can you block 10 to 15 hours a week for the first 90 days to do this thing? Right? Can you block this time that you're like, you know what, I'm going to be the best employee in this place? Right? But can you lock in time to work on this specific business? Or even if you have an existing business and you want it to get to the next step, you want to get out of the 250K to break from 500 to $1 million, you have to know why you want to do that. You have to know the numbers. You have to know the different steps that we've spoken about. You have to know, you have to be able to evaluate your resources and say, all right, I need the time. I need to know what is the budget that it's going to cost me to launch. If you want to be a better employee, if you want to be a better person in your organization, what is it going to cost to do some more courses, to do some more training? What is it going to cost me from a monetary standpoint? What are the gaps in knowledge? And I mean, I've made this mistake before. A lot of people make this mistake. They jump into businesses, they have all the right steps, but they don't evaluate the knowledge that it requires to go to this next step. And that's what creates a lot of issues, is the gap in knowledge. You have to be honest and be able to hold yourself accountable with the gaps in knowledge. And how can you get this gap? How can you fill that gap? Right? And then the last one, so we did time, we did money, we did knowledge, and the last one is people. And a lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs who have existing businesses, this is where they fall short in terms of scaling from 6 to 7 figures. It's the people, right? Not either hiring the right people, failing to hire talented people, or not training the people that you already have. One of the biggest things that causes founders, even when they do get to $1 million, to go to 2 million, it holds them back, right? Or they keep on growing the revenue, but then the cost keeps on going up because they either hire people who aren't trained, and you increase your team, but you don't give them the right training, you don't give them the right support, and now you're spending more, you have this cost. So you have to be able to look at the people, right? You have to be able to look at the people, and you have to be able to know if you need to add, if you need to train. Extremely important. And last but not least, in this system, well, it's not last, but it's my favorite one. And if I'm being vulnerable, sometimes I do this step before I do the others, and it's execute. For me, I will execute before I have the people, before I have the money, before I even have the time. I'm going to build that plane in the sky, baby. And there's only one way, up or down. But I prefer to have that problem than the people who sit and you plan and you think about every single thing that you need to do. Like, I'll talk to some entrepreneurs and they'll tell me this amazing dream, and I know this person can do this business. I know this person will be phenomenal at this business. And I talk to them a year later and they're like, yeah, man, I got to create the website. I'm like, the website? Right? Or I have to get the business cards. Or a really good one is, they'll be like, yeah, man, I got to wait till after the summer and the kids, you know how it is. Or I have to wait until my wife does. Wait on your wife to do what? So a lot of people get stuck in the execution. Most people, like at this step, this is where they stop. I see the most talented people. Like, I've seen so many people. I've come across some amazing people who are smart, they're talented, and I mean, they are innovative, they are creative, and they can build out the plan. They can come up with a strategy. They can articulate it like they're already there. But they will not take the first step. Or they find every single thing. And the people who know me know I say this a lot. When it comes down to your dreams, like everybody in here at the beginning said that they have dreams. The place with the most dreams is the graveyard. People, they die with their dreams. And the most common one is because they do not execute. They do not execute, right? Because of a lot of things, because of the mindset, because of the fear. They're letting their trauma talk to them. They have the wrong people around them. There are so many different things. Just go out and take the first step. Just take the first step. Just try. If it doesn't work, so what? I would say something political about failing and coming back again, but probably not the right form, right? But you've had so many people who have failed a lot of times, and they're still at the top of their field, right? And it's because they do not give a damn what other people think. They do not live in the cage of people's opinions. They do not live in the cage of culture. Like, some people let culture keep them back. Like, say, yeah, in my culture, we don't really do this and that, but yet you complain about the things and the places that you want to go, right? Or you say, because I come from here, I'm not going to be really good at that to take that step. No. Execute. And it boils down to the why. If your why isn't big enough, you will never execute. Like, if Like there's some people, if you tell them that, look, we have this trip coming up in 3 months, you got to get right. And you see the person go and they do Uber on the side, right? They go and start working out. They know all the outfits. They plan out the outfits. They know the price. All of a sudden, they know exactly what's in their account, right? And they plan and they save. They do the Uber on the side. They get in shape. And it's because their why is big enough. But then after the trip, they go back to the same old habits and they complain. You got to have the right why. And then once you have the right why, you have to execute. You just try. You owe it to yourself, right? I always ask people this question. So we spoke about your future self. If you were to ask that little boy or girl in their room when you were 10 or 12, because like that's the age when you feel like you know more than your parents, right? If you were to go and ask, if that little person was to say to you, did we do it? Did we survive? I want you to think about that. What would your answer be? You're sitting here right now. What would your answer be to that person who is filled with so much dreams, so much hope, endless possibilities? What would your answer be to that little person right now? Would you say, yeah, we did it and we did more? Or would you just take a deep breath and say, I'm working on it. I haven't done it. And if you say to that little person that is depending on you, your younger self, and I'm sure you can picture that person right now, and you say, I didn't do it, do you know what question they're going to ask you? They're going to ask you why. Why? Why haven't you done it? If your mind goes to excuses, that's the problem. But you can also tell them, don't worry, I got you. It's never too late. It is never too late to turn around the person who you want to be. It's never too late to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. It's never too late to execute. It's never too late to start over. So, step 4, you execute. All right, so now you execute, right? You got the resources, you figured out your why, you start to take the first steps. Good, you're halfway there, right? You're halfway there. Now you have to manage the growth, right? Growth is the action, scale is the outcome. You can only manage the growth, you can't manage scaling. So whether your business is at 500K, it's the actions that lead you to grow that allows you to scale. That's what you got to think about. Growth is repeatable actions, and the growth is what allows you to scale. So once you get this business off the ground, from the idea to the why, to figuring out what your resources are, and you execute, you have the plane in the sky. Now you got to grow. And then we're going to come back to knowing your numbers, right? Talking to your customers, and you're hunting the opportunities. We have some people who turn eternal students, right? They have like 4 or 5, like your whole life, you know them. They're always in school, right? But they just cannot get past that point, right? They're like super stuck in just checking that one box, right? So you build a business, you do all the right steps, you get the degrees, but what's next after you execute? Right? You have to refine your differentiator, right? This is where you start to document your processes. This is where you start to check what are these bottlenecks? Is it cash flow, right? These are the things that you have to know. But then, this is where it becomes more intricate. After you get down all the way here, it is systems. That is what's going to keep your business going. Whether you're a 50K business, a 35K business, or a $2 million business, your system that you have in place, your system and your process is what's going to keep you going. What system do you have? And you have to find a system that aligns with your business. All right, so we spoke about one, we find the problem, know your why, evaluate your resources, execute the launch, and you manage your growth daily. Woo! How we feeling? Huh? How we feeling? All right, we almost done. We almost done. You guys stayed with me. I truly hope that a lot of this it's really resonating, right? And you will really feel that if you were a caveman, right, you would know that you want to hunt, right? And you would know what's stopping you from hunting, who is stopping you from hunting, knowing your why, knowing your weapon. No matter who you are, no matter which stage you are in life. All right, so this is one of my favorite parts. These are like the 5 pillars that I stand on as a hunter, right? So we went over 2 basic systems. We went over mindset. So now we're going to go into my 5 pillars. And my pillars, it's a culmination of the journey of my life in terms of being an athlete, being a student, being an attorney, having failed at numerous businesses. Fun fact, my first business was selling hair, right? I used to import hair from Brazil, fresh off the scalp. Fresh. It didn't even hit the ground. They cut it and they shipped it to me, and I would bring it to the hairdressers. I still get calls. I'm getting a call. I'm like, oh, it's somebody from the office. They're like, hey, do you have the 24-inch? I'm like, no. And I tried it. It worked, and then it failed. My second business was personal trainer. And I've had several along the way, right? But I am not afraid to try. I am not afraid to execute. I do not care what anybody thinks. All right? All right, so, but being an athlete, the one thing I can credit, the many things that I can credit, but the main thing is the discipline that it creates in you. Right? So this first pillar, like, and again, it boils down to system. Discipline is not a personality trait, it is a system. And systems can be built. Your body is your first business. Your body and your mind is the first system that you have to master. Your body and your mind. So we spoke about the mind, right? We spoke about the state. But your body, because when you're functioning at a high level, right? Everybody in here functions at some high capacity. You're doing multiple things. You're doing businesses, you're doing jobs, and you're balancing that with your families, and you're getting pulled in all directions. And sometimes you're not being pulled, but you're pulled by trauma. You're pulled by these limiting beliefs. But if you can control your body, that's like the first step. And I'm not saying people should be here jacked, right? It is creating a system, because once you create this successful business, once you become the top in your profession, in your space, as I said before, which we spoke about, there's a cost and a sacrifice. And if your body isn't right, if your body is depleted, if your cup isn't full, then guess what? You're going to be kicking the dog. And the dog can be your partner, the dog can be your coworkers, the dog can be your kids. You have to, because stress is real. Stress is real. I've had 3 colleagues over the last 10 years who died of heart attacks from stress. All right? So you have to know how to manage your body. If your cup is empty, you will not be able to pour into anybody else's cup. If your cup is empty, you will not be able to be a good partner. You will not be able to, I mean, in your mind, you might think that you're being a good partner, and then you have a convo and that person said, man, you've been absent. You're here, but you're not there. Or, you are a business owner and you think everything is fine, and your top person leaves, and you're like, yo, I'm paying you, I'm doing X, Y, Z. And the person said to you, you've been a dick, because you're kicking the dog, because your cup isn't full. So, but it starts from the body. You can control that. So, your body is your operating system. And it is what is going to separate you from being the hunter and from being the hunted. So, in your workbook, you have a framework in your workbook, right? And here it says 5 a.m. I just put that because it's early.
Your 5 a.m. alarm.
Okay. I've tried it a couple times. 5 a.m. is a little bit too early for me. But some people operate at that time. For me, the sweet spot is 6:30. And I have a ritual that I follow. Hydrate. Sometimes I get sunlight, sometimes I don't. Breath work, movement, cold shower, affirmations, prayer, meditation. Why is this important? This part ties into everything that we've been talking about: emotion, state, right? So if you wake up and you're reacting, like if you wake up and the first thing that you do is you check your phone, other than checking your account, because we talk about checking your account every day. But if you wake up and you're already checking emails, right? You're already looking at messages. No. Correct the state, correct your body. Drink a glass of water. If you're elite, you're going to drink a glass of water, but that glass of water has in creatine, it has in apple cider vinegar, it has in your probiotics. But that's elite. We're just doing it baseline right now. But you have your glass of water, that's the first thing. If you can get sunlight, great. But breath work is amazing, people. Right? And you can YouTube it. You do your breath work. And this whole sequence, if you're seeing it as an additional thing that you're adding to your life, come on. Like, it only takes 10 minutes. You do your breath work, you get up and move, you stretch, you just walk around, get the blood flowing. Right? Whoever you pray to, you pray. And then this is where you can have a conversation with your future self. You can visualize that person. and as an athlete, that's one big thing that we do. We visualize. I do this on a daily basis. I visualize the goals that I have. I visualize the goals that I wrote down in January. You visualize. And people, so if you're a person right now that no matter how hard you try, there's like 2 or 3 negative things that you say about yourself, right? If you say, man, I'm not enough. If you are telling yourself that, you know, if I try this, it's going to fail anyway, so why not? Why even try? If you tell yourself that, look, I'm in this debt, I'm not going to get out. If you tell yourself, I want this position, but this other person is better than me. If you're telling yourself that you are not a good partner, are these the things that you're telling yourself? And we're all human. We all have those seasons, right? We all have those hunting seasons where it's bad, you don't get anything, and you beat yourself up. You beat yourself up over and over till you start believing that voice. But when I'm telling you about affirmations, writing it out and saying it out loud, putting it into the universe and having your brain hear those words, I am enough. I am the best cook. I am loving. Right? I am smart. And whatever your affirmations are that go against that negative voice, if you can say it over and over every single day, I'm a true testament that it can happen. Like, even sometimes it scares me. I'm like, oh, wow, that shit works. You know? So affirmations, if you give yourself that 10 minutes a day where you're framing your mind and your body, you're moving, you're hydrating, you're praying, and you're telling yourself these positive things. You're telling yourself, you're visualizing your next move. You're visualizing that prayer, and you see it, you see yourself, you feel it, you're in it, you're wearing it, you're living it. And you just do that for 10 minutes, I can guarantee you your life will change. All right, so in your workbooks, there's a framework there. And it's not unique to me. I know a lot of founders, entrepreneurs, my mentors, they have a very similar framework. I've tried a bunch, but the ones I'm giving you is what works for me. You know, everybody in this room has been counted out against at some point in time. Everybody, somebody here has started broke. Somebody here has started late. Somebody here has been let down, right? The question isn't what happened to you. The question is, are you hunting your trauma, or is your trauma hunting you? And that's something that I've spoken about from day one, right? We let our trauma speak for us. We continue to just tell ourselves these negative things, and these things that are not self-serving, right? But your inner child deserves more. And one concept that is like really, really cool that I learned years ago is really like almost meditating and visiting that 12-year-old in your room and really going back to that feeling, because, you know, for most people, not all, you know, I mean, figure out that age where you didn't have that trauma, where you were free. The only thing that you had to think about was if your mom would let you outside to play. And, you know, you're at your most creative then, you know, like go back to that space, shed that weight, shed all the things that has happened to you as an adult, right? Kids take more risks because they haven't been hurt or failed as much as you are as an adult right now. You know, life is hard, you know, and it's going to be a fixed cost. No matter what you do, if you're making 50K, life is hard. Trust me, 50K hard. But you know what? Life at $1 million is hard. Life at 2 million is hard. It is a fixed cost, right? But once you understand that it's a fixed cost, you have to make that cost worth it. And you have to choose what you're going to do to change. All right, so moving on to other pillars as we wrap up. So we spoke about the discipline, right? Doing consistent habits every single day. The small ones. So small bad habits is a form of discipline as well. But imagine if you can make 3 really good choices each day in terms of discipline as to how you frame your mind before you go and do your hunt. The next pillar, which is, all right, you have your business up and running, you're feeling good, you have the right framework, everything is good, is the legal part. And this is just part of our overall system, is we really, a lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs, after they start their business, they neglect the legal part. They neglect starting an LLC. They neglect having proper documentation signed and say, oh no, it's my brethren, we'll start this business, let's shake on it, we're good. And then you end up in my office. And I'm asking you, was there a partnership agreement? And you're like, no, we didn't need one. Yes, you did need one. One of my biggest blessings is having my mother work with me. Oh man, that is one of my biggest flexes. I said, Mommy, you got to sign this employment contract. Period. Right? And that is how you should operate when you have your business or any agreement that you're doing. You have to look at signing this agreement. You have to start the proper LLC. Then you have to have a business bank account. And it's crazy. Like in the realm that I'm operating at now, I see people who make 7 figures and they still operate off a spreadsheet and have one account, a personal account that they have business expenses and personal expenses going into, and you need to get a profit and loss, and it's a nightmare. So we have to look at these different things. Once you have that business up and going, you have to take account of the legal part. All right. One moment. So, you know, when we spoke about the inner child, that was actually number 2. But it's such a complex that we all deal with as humans, right? It's like being the underdog. And some people just wear that like it's a superhero cape. Like they love, like, have you ever met some people and they love talking about what they could have done, or they love talking about what this person did to them, or these things that happened to them their entire life. At some part, you have to cut the story and stop feeling sorry for yourself, right? The world doesn't care. You know, it's an interesting spectacle at like a Jamaican funeral, right? It starts out and people are devastated. People are bawling. But then the next question is, where's the curry goat? Let's take these photos. People move on with their life, you know, and that's what's going to happen. People will feel it in the moment, but they're going to move on. So this underdog story, this thing that you keep on telling yourself of who did this to you. And I mean, people have been through some traumatic events. Some people have taken on way more than you could ever imagine. That's no fault of theirs. But if you continue to wear that story, you will never feel what's in between the day you were born and the day that you die, because that's guaranteed. So that underdog story, feel it, write it, it's a chapter. But just keep on remember, like after a while, nobody's going to give a shit, period. We spoke about protecting yourself legally. And then my last pillar, which I think is so important, and it's the most fun part for me. So we've talked about the underdog, we've talked about protecting yourself legally, we've talked about your body and your mind. So once you've started the business, once you've excelled at your job, and this for me is what has made me different in my field. And it is being a creator, believe it or not. You can be the best barber, you can be the best contractor. If nobody knows about you, then it doesn't matter. I mean, either you hire the person to let people know about you, but if nobody knows about you, you will not be the best version of yourself. So whatever business or industry that you are in, you have to have some type of presence in terms of social media or some type of effort for marketing, right? And you have soft and cold. So for me, if you have a business right now, and I say to you, do all your friends in your immediate circle know what you do. Do all the people that you go to church with, do all the people that you hang out with on a regular basis, or do all the people that follow you on any social media, do they know what you do? Do they know the service or business that you have? If they do not know, you have failed, because that's the easiest. That's the easiest. They should be tired of you. I don't mean like the people know who they invite you into a room and then you're like part of like Mary Kate, no? Or you're like, trying to get you into one of those multi-selling. And I mean, even that works. But if you have a business that you've built, you've invested, you've gone through the whole ringer, people should, that's the warm part, they should know. But then there has to be a plan after that. There's a reason why President Trump has social media that he's active. Elon Musk. If the richest people in the world, the most powerful people in the world, they know the value of having a presence on social media to where they can give information and they can people can access them in some form of way. If they are doing that, why can't you do it? It's not some magical thing that costs money, right? You have to be your biggest cheerleader. You have to be able to cheer for yourself. You have to be able to communicate what you're doing, and that's for a whole other mastermind in terms of what we do when it comes on to social media, branding yourself, right? But you have to have your personal brand. Create a CEO. This is the moment. This is the era. You have to put yourself out there, right? And my favorite entrepreneurs are the ones who they're like, I don't like being in front of the camera, or, I don't have the time. What? If the president of the United States has the time to make a post, you can't make a post? If this guy that is worth, 300 billion is posting almost every day, you can't make a post? It's a reason. You should be your biggest cheerleader. It's a reason why politicians, they campaign, right? So people know about them. People have to know about you, and you owe that to yourself. You owe that to your future self. You owe that to your family. You owe that to the teacher who said that you're amazing, and then also the teacher who said that they don't think that you're going to amount to anything. So here we have, and in your workbooks, you'll find the framework as to what works. So those are the pillars. So as we wrap up, I'm going to, this is my mantra, right? As an apex hunter. And I want for you to say the last sentence with me. And the last sentence is going to start with I am. And you being here today, like, you made a decision to come here. All right? But I also want you to make whatever decision that you are making taken away from this. Whether it's the convo with your younger self, your future self, your mindset, your body, whatever decision that you are making to execute, to take the step. I do not take the knee, fall on my sword. I do not hope for victory, I hunt it. My mind is my weapon. My body is my vessel. My word is bond. Came from nothing. I built from nothing because nothing was never going to stop me. I see the target, not the obstacle. I refuse the dark. I prime. I rise. I hunt again. I know my why. I know my future self. I manage growth. I bust the bottlenecks. I execute without waiting to feel ready. All right, say this with me. I am possible. In my words, in my actions, in everything I build. I am Apex. That's it. Thank you. Woo! That's a wrap. And look out for the next. Thank you for everybody for coming. Thank you for the team for putting this together. Appreciate all of you, for all the people who stayed the entire time watching. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the step to log in and stay through the whole thing. And I just hope that even if you got one thing from me today, that means that I have fulfilled a small part of my purpose. So thank you, everybody. All right, and that's a wrap. Cool. You good? Yeah? Thank you so much for coming.